Hello everyone, welcome you all. So, guys, from this lecture onwards, we'll be starting our lecture series on basics of Vedic astrology. And in this particular lecture, we'll be studying about houses. We'll be starting from scratch and slowly we'll progress to the advanced stuff. Now, let's first discuss the pillars of Vedic astrology. There are 12 houses. Then there are 12 zodiacs or rashis and their lords. And then there are 27 nakshatras and their lords. Right? So nakshatras are the stars. So I'll repeat again, there are 12 houses. Then there are 12 zodiacs and their lords. And then there are 27 nakshatras and their lords. And these are the pillars of Vedic astrology. Now, these are the two types of kundlis. Okay, kundli is the Sanskrit word for horoscope. We have the North Indian chart over here, and then we have the South Indian chart right over here. We will be focusing mainly on the North Indian chart. However, I will also show you how to do predictions from a South Indian chart. But our main focus will be towards the North Indian chart. So we'll be using we'll be using horoscope in this format, the North Indian format. Now, let's discuss the North Indian horoscope with all the houses. Now, the first house, you can see over here, this is also known as the Ascendant, which is the most important house in your entire horoscope. In Sanskrit, we call it Lagna. In Sanskrit, we call it Lagna. In English, we call it Ascendant. So this is the first house. Now, from the first house, if you want to count other houses, you will go counterclockwise. Okay. So if this is the first house, this becomes the second house. This becomes the third house. This becomes the fourth house. Then you have fifth house over here. Then you have sixth house, seventh house, eighth house, ninth house, 10th house, 11th house, 12th house, and then first house. So whenever you count houses, you have to go counterclockwise from the first house. Now, let's discuss what these houses represent. Now, I'm going to be discussing the representations or the significations very briefly in this video. And then in the subsequent videos, we're going to be discussing in detail about each and every house and what it represents, what are the significations. Now, the Lagna or the Ascendant, your first house, it's all about you. It's your personality, it's your health, it's your behavior, it's how you think, it's how other people perceive you. So, this house, in short, is all about your personality, the way you think, the way other people see you, the way other people perceive you. So, this is the first house, is also known as the self. Okay. Now, we will be discussing in detail about the representations and the significations of all the houses. Right now, we are just discussing in brief. Moving on to the second house, this house represents your family, the kind of family you are coming from, okay, the kind of environment in which you were brought up. This house also represents your accumulated wealth or your wealth from your family. So all of these things are seen, are analyzed from your second house. Now, the third house is all about your communication, your efforts, your writing skills, your inborn talent. All these things are perceived, analyzed from the third house. The fourth house is about your home, about the kind of properties, the kind of real estate you will accumulate. It's also about your mother, the kind of vehicles, the kind of luxury you will get in life is all seen from your fourth house. Fifth house is about your education, your children, and your love life. Okay. Sixth house is generally seen for debts, and this house is also for litigation, your enemies, and your diseases. All of that is seen from the sixth house. So, your debts, if you are in a debt, that is seen from the sixth house. What kind of diseases you'll get, and what will be the nature of those diseases, that is also seen from this house. And then your enemies, your secret enemies, we analyze them from the sixth house as well. Seventh house is about your spouse, although the spouse is studied from a D9 chart, not from the D1. This is the D1 chart or the Lagna chart, and we study spouse from the Navansha, which we'll discuss later. But right now, you can understand this house in a way that this is your partnerships. And because marriage is the biggest partnership of life, we associate marriage with this house as well. So, your partnerships, your daily wages, this house also represents your business. Okay. Now, eighth house is the house of secret things. It's also the house of your longevity. Death is seen from the eighth house. Then, deep research abilities, like scientists, they have a very strong eighth house. Insurance, people engaged in the insurance industry, again, a very strong eighth house. So, this is a very secretive house. Now, this house is also seen for obstacles and ancestral property. So this is a very complicated house, right? Ninth house is the house of your religion, your dharma, your luck. So, if you want to understand that whether you are lucky or not, ninth house and the ninth house lord will tell you. Okay. 10th house is the house of your karmas, your profession, your business. So both 7th and 10th house, they represent business. 10th house in particular represents your karma, right? And this house also represents your father. 11th house is responsible for all kind of gains and your friend circle and all kinds of materialistic realization. So if you have a wish or if you have a desire, that particular desire is fulfilled from the 11th house. So this is the house of gains, right? Whether financial and whether you have some spiritual desire, and if you are gaining something from that, that is also represented by the 11th house. So it can be gains in any area of your life. 12th house is responsible for your expenses, your hospitalization, jail, and general expenses. Then we see isolation also from 12th house. Okay, so these are the significations and representations of these houses in general and in brief. We'll be discussing these significations and these representations in much more detail in the upcoming video lectures. So I hope you find this lecture interesting and useful. If you are interested in learning about Vedic astrology, be sure to subscribe this channel. And if you like this lecture, be sure to hit the like button. And I thank you very much.